Have you heard that the human body is a perfect machine? Yeah, but what few people know, and almost no one has the courage to say, is that when an elderly man is about to die, that same machine begins to issue a specific, subtle, silent but powerful signal 3 days before death. Did you know that? Has anyone close to you already issued this signal and you didn't notice? Many people believe that death comes without warning, which is a sudden, unpredictable event. But what if I tell you that the body of an elderly man can announce his own death in advance? Yes, there is a real physical signal that has already been observed in thousands of cases by doctors, caregivers, and family members. And the frightening, most people completely ignore. If you have elderly parents, grandparents, or live with people over 70, pay close attention to what I will reveal in this video. This information can prepare you for one of the most difficult times in life and allow you to offer more care, comfort, and dignity in these final days. This may be the most important video you will watch this year. We are talking about a delicate theme, yes, but also deeply necessary. Because when we understand how the body works at the end of life, we can act with more humanity, empathy, and wisdom. And that's exactly what you will learn here. But before telling you what is this sign that the body emits when death is near, you need to understand the context. This is not any symptom. It is not something that appears out of nowhere. It is a natural process, often confused with discouragement, weakness, or even laziness. But it is a true silent farewell code, and knowing how to interpret it can change everything. Unfortunately, many caregivers, and even health professionals, were not trained to realize this sign. And this makes thousands of elderly people die without proper assistance in their last days, without the necessary emotional comfort, without the chance to say goodbye with dignity. But today, you will get ahead. You will understand how this signal works, because it appears, and especially what to do when it arises. If you are here looking for true information, based on real clinical observations and experiences of those who live closely, then subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell, because I bring content like this every week, without winding, direct to the point, focusing on health, prevention, and quality of life for those who need it most, our elderly. Now, stop everything you are doing and reflect on me. What would you do if you knew someone in your family has only 3 more days of life? What would be your attitude? Would you let go unnoticed or prepare to welcome, hear, be present? Stay with me until the end, because this sign can appear at any time, and when you know how to recognize it, you will remember this video. You will thank you for preparing. It will be able to act with conscience and love. And to begin to understand how the human body gives this final alert, first you need to know the biological process that precedes the end of life in the elderly, and how it manifests itself physically. And it is precisely at this point that many people get lost. By not understanding the signs that the body sends in the last phases of life, end up treating a natural process as a passing problem, and then they lose the chance to offer the right time at the right time. These are not just physical symptoms. It is the body preparing to disconnect, silently, gradually, but noticeable for those who know how to observe. This sign, which we will reveal throughout the video, does not appear by chance. It is the result of a set of physiological changes that indicate that the body is entering the final decline. It is as if the body said, "The time is coming." And that is why understanding this content is more than important, is essential. If you have gotten here, it is because it really cares about the health of your family members, the dignity in aging, and wants to be prepared to deal with a reality that sooner or later we all face. And that's why I want to ask you a favor. Leave it here in the comments if you've been through any similar situation. Have you taken care of someone who days before leaving began to present strange behaviors such as refusing food, isolating yourself, or seeming off from the world? Sharing your experience can help other people who are going through the same now. Our community grows and strengthens when we exchange real experiences. And if this content is making sense to you, leave your like, because it shows YouTube that the video is relevant and makes it reach more people who need this information. Oh, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Here we talk about the health of the elderly, palliative care, body signs, and how to offer quality D and life to the end. Every week has videos with practical information, explained simply and without winding, so you can take better care of those you love. Then you prepare, because then I will show you exactly what is the signal that can appear up to 3 days before the death of an elderly, why it happens, and what you should do when identifying it. Believe me, knowing this can completely change the way you see this delicate moment of life. Let's go on. The truth is that most people still believe that death comes abruptly, like a sudden blackout without any warning. But this is not what really happens in most cases, especially when we talk about the elderly. The human body, especially when it is already weakened by age or a chronic disease, begins to issue clear and specific signs that the end is approaching. These signs are not random. They follow a physiological pattern that, when understood, can completely transform the way we relate to the last days of someone we love. And here is the most important point. Although these signs are there in sight, many people ignore. Why? Because we were not taught to look at death naturally. We were taught to fear it, to avoid it, to push this subject for later. There is a very large taboo around the end of life, especially when it involves our parents, grandparents, uncles, and people we love. No one wants to accept that that elderly who took care of you all life is leaving. So the brain does what it knows how to do best. It denies it, creates justifications, minimizes the signs, and with that, we lost precious moments. Many children and grandchildren believe that the elderly are only tired, in a bad mood, or going through a phase. They do not realize that refusal for food, isolation, diminishing speech rhythm, and even changing breathing are silent warnings. The body is off. And if you who are watching this video now learn to identify these signs, you can change everything. A lot of people blame themselves deeply after a loved one dies. If you blame yourself for not realizing it, for not having been anymore, for not doing different. How many stories have you heard from people saying, "If I knew it was the last days, would you have done everything differently?" So it is. This pain can be avoided, or at least it can be softened with information. Imagine being able to realize that this old man has been in the last days and being able to make a special visit, give a last hug, speak what needs to be said, organize care the right way, ensure that he is comfortable, without pain, with dignity. Imagine not missing the chance to say goodbye as it should. And all this can happen just because you understand that there is a signal that precedes death, a warning of the body, as if it were giving you time to act. Now think to me, how many people do you know who take care of the elderly and have no idea that? How many families face death traumatically precisely because they were taken by surprise? And not for lack of signs, but for lack of knowledge. That's exactly why this video is so important. Because what you are learning here is not just interesting information. It is a powerful tool for emotional, practical, and human transformation. It is a way of seeing the health of the elderly in deeper. Palliative medicine, which is the area that takes care of end-of-life patients, has been talking about these signs for decades. But unfortunately, this information has not yet reached all families. Many informal caregivers, children, nephews, wives, and husbands continue to face this moment without preparation. And it's not because they are negligent, it's because no one told them. But today, you are having this opportunity. You are having access to information that can give you clarity in one of the most delicate and painful moments of life. And when we talk about signs before death, we are not dealing with mystical predictions or achievements. We are talking about documented body patterns, physiological processes that happen in the human organism when he understands that there is no more energy reserved to maintain. And what happens right now? The body enters maximum economy mode. He stops fighting time. It begins to prioritize vital functions and eliminate the others. Digestion, for example, is one of the first functions to be deactivated. Therefore, one of the lighter signs the end is close is the refusal for food and liquids. But calm, it's not a simple lack of appetite. It is an active refusal, as if the body said, "I don't need it anymore." The elderly stop feeding not because he is sad or discouraged, but because his body no longer sees in spending energy on digestion. And it is at this point that our responsibility comes as family members, caregivers, or peers nearby so as. Refusal for food, in these cases, should not be forced. It is no use insisting. What the elderly need at this moment is not a tablespoon, but of presence, comfort, serenity around him. This kind of knowledge completely changes the way we behave in the face of an end to life. And this is where the video starts to enter an even more important part. Because early identification of this sign can make room for conversations that have never been taken. for reconciliations, for words that had been trapped for years. It may allow that old man not to leave alone, but surrounded by love, understanding, and care. This is something that is priceless. How many times have you heard someone say, "He died without saying goodbye," or "I didn't even realize it was so serious"? These phrases are marks of misinformation. And when we start looking carefully, you realize that the signs were all there. Small changes in routine, behavior, look, a different, longer silence, a kind of tiredness that does not pass, a slower, irregular breathing. The body speaks, always spoke. We never learned to listen. And maybe you are here now precisely because fate has brought you to this information. Perhaps because someone close is showing some of these signs, and you have not yet stopped to reflect on what it might mean. Or maybe because you feel it is time to prepare. Whatever the reason, know that you are in the right place. Knowing how to identify the signs of the body before the death of an elderly can be the difference between a traumatic goodbye and a goodbye with peace. It may be the difference between suffering and relief, both for those who go and those who stay. And now I want to ask you something. If this content is touching you in any way, leave a comment here below. Have you ever experienced an experience similar to a family member? Have you noticed changes like this on someone close? Or maybe you are going through this now and want to share. Right here, "I want to learn to take better care," or "I've seen that sign, but I didn't know what it was." Your comment can help other people can generate identification, and more than that, you can create a support and exchange space here in our community. And now that you have understood why this sign is so ignored, and how it can be the key to turning the last days of an elderly, the time has come for us to enter the most important part. Next, I will show you what this sign is, how it manifests itself physically, and what exactly you need to observe. Stay with me, because now it's time to open your eyes for real. Now that you already understand the importance of watching carefully at the signs that the body of an elderly man can emit before death, let's dive deeply into what really happens. This is the most delicate and most necessary moment of this whole process, because now you will find out what the main sign you announce up to 3 days in advance that life is coming to an end. And when we talk about it, it's not to generate fear. It is to generate consciousness, to prepare emotionally, to allow more human, more empathic, and more respectful care with the elderly who is living this transition. The main signal observed in thousands of cases by experienced caregivers, health professionals, and attentive family members is the drastic and sudden drop in diet and fluid ingestion. This behavior usually happens very evidently, even in the elderly who, until then, were eating normally. The elderly simply stops eating. It refuses water, no hungry, and even the favorite foods no longer arouse any interest. But here is the crucial point. This is not a sloppiness. It is not a tantrum. It is not laziness. It is physiological. It is a real and legitimate sign that the body is turning off. In practice, what happens is that the body, understanding that its energy reserves are reaching the limit, begins to preserve only the most basic vital functions. And digestion, as it is a process that requires a great energy expenditure, is one of the first to be interrupted. So the elderly begins to reject food and liquids because, biologically, the body is no longer prioritizing this function. It's as if the body itself said, "I don't need it anymore, I'm preparing to stop." This behavior is usually accompanied by deep introspection. The elderly is quieter, farther, more prisoner. In many cases, it seems to be looking inside, as if saying goodbye to the surrounding world. It is important to understand that this state is not of sadness or depression. On the contrary, it is a kind of silent peace of recollection. Many elderly enter this state with serenity. There is no pain at this time, there is biological acceptance. And sometimes the greatest pain is who observes and is not yet prepared to accept this shutdown. In addition to this eating refusal, other physical signs begin to emerge and indicate, even more clearly, that the end is close. One of the most visible signs is the change in skin coloration, especially in the ends, hands, feet, fingers. The skin can become colder to the touch and acquire a bluish or purplish color. This is because blood circulation is being redirected to the most vital organs, leaving the peripheral regions with less flow. In other words, the body is prioritizing what is still needed and leaving aside what is no longer essential to maintaining life. This is an extremely important sign for those who take care of seniors at home. Another sign is the change in breathing, which begins to become slower, deeper, sometimes with irregular breaks. In some situations, breathing may seem panting or presenting light noises, as if there was accumulated secretion. These sounds do not mean suffering. They are part of the natural process of dismissal of the respiratory system. It is the body adjusting its own frequency as it prepares to stop. This kind of breathing may scare those who are not used to, but again, it is not pain. It is just another natural step of the body towards death. Also, there is a profound change in the look. The elderly begins to look vaguely, often to nothing. The focus disappears. The facial expression changes. It is common for him to stop responding to simple stimuli such as calling by name or touching his hand. This does not mean that he does not listen or feel. In fact, many studies show that hearing is the last sense to turn off. But it is as if he are gradually disconnecting from the environment around to dive into an internal dismissal process. This distant look is one of the deepest and most exciting signs for those who observe, as it shows clearly that this elderly is no longer entirely here. And it is at this moment that comes the noblest role of the caregiver, of the family, who is next to it. Welcome. Welcoming with love, silence, with presence. Do not try to bring back who is already going, but ensure that this farewell is done with maximum dignity. Many family members make the mistake of insisting, forcing food, increasing noise, trying to maintain a normal routine. But this is the time to reduce stimuli, to make the environment calmer, softer, more respectful. Low lights, soft touches, kind words. All of this makes a huge difference in the last moments of an elderly life. This final care is a form of love that transcends any other gesture. It's the last delivery, the last act of affection you can offer someone who has taken care of you for so many years. And that is why understanding this sign is so important. He is not just physical, he is symbolic. He carries a silent but extremely powerful message. It's the body saying, "I'm ready." When you see this sign in this way, you change the way you face death. Instead of despair, acceptance is born. Instead of fear, comes the presence. And this transforms not only the elderly experience but also yours. Because the way we say goodbye to those we love is forever marked in our memory. And being able to do this with respect, understanding, and love is a privilege that only those who have access to this kind of information can live. Now I want to ask you that if this content is making sense to you, if you are helping you to see the health of the elderly with other eyes, you comment below. Write, for example, "Now I understand what the body means," or "I want to learn more about the signs of the end of life." It can also be, "I have witnessed this and never knew what it was." Your comment is not just a way to interact with me, it is a way to help other people who are also going through this situation. Sometimes a phrase of yours can open one's eyes and make him take better care of those who love. So leave your experience registered here. So stay with me, because now that you know what is the most important signal that anticipates the death of an elderly man, it's time to understand what is behind this behavior, why it happens exactly that way, and what you should avoid doing so as not to turn this moment even more painful. The answer to all this comes next. If you have come here with me, it is because you understand the weight and importance of that silent sign that the body emits when life is about to end. From that moment, more than observing, it is time to act with conscience, empathy, and with true presence. Knowing that death approaches can scare, can paralyze, can even generate confusion, especially when we take this information by surprise. But believe me, understanding what is happening and knowing what to do when noticing this sign can completely transform this moment. And that's what we're going to talking now with all the delicacy that the theme requires, but without losing objectivity, because the health of the elderly and the way it is cared for in recent days require clarity. The first thing you need to understand is that by noticing the sign, that persistent refusal of food and liquids accompanied by introspection, colder skin at the ends, irregular breathing, and distant gaze, the worst you can do is react with despair. I know it's hard. No one wants to accept that the end is near, but that's where emotional wisdom comes in. The elderly body is already doing its part. He is preparing. Now you are the one who needs to do yours, and its part begins with something simple but powerful. Welcome. To welcome this moment is more than being physically present. It is understanding that what that person needs now is not a solution, no salvation, but support, respect, comfort, and above all, peace. An extremely common mistake is to try to force the food. Offer harvested with insistence, keep saying that you need to eat to improve, or even threaten to take the hospital forcibly. This, besides being ineffective, can generate physical and emotional discomfort in the elderly, which is already in a state where communication with the external world is dissolving. He doesn't have to eat. The body has already decided that. And insisting is often a reflection of our difficulty accepting the end. But we need to remember, care at the end of life is not about extending existence at any cost. It is about ensuring that the last moments are lived with dignity. The most suitable at this time is to seek palliative care, if possible. Palliative medicine is not intended to cure but alleviate. Take care of discomfort, provide well-being and respect body time. A doctor or a palliativist team can guide how to relieve possible symptoms, such as dryness in the mouth, respiratory discomfort, or sleep changes. And this professional guidance makes all the difference. Many people still think palliative care means abandonment, but it is the opposite. It is the most human way to take care of someone who is dying. It means recognizing that it is no longer a matter of fighting death, but of embracing the life that still exists in that body, in the details, in the gestures, in size. Another essential attitude is to take care of the environment. The place where the elderly are in recent days can directly affect how they will experience this moment. A noisy, tense environment, with shouts, discussions, or rush, is not suitable. You need to silence the external environment so that it can hear your own body. Turn off the strong lights, close the curtains a little, diminish the sound of television. Put a calm song if he liked it. Leave soft aromas if there is no contraindication. And more than anything, be there. Sit next door. Hold your hand. Even if he doesn't answer. Even if you don't seem to realize. This subtle contact has an immeasurable force. The skin still feels. The heart still listens. The soul still recognizes who is close. And often a touch says 1,000 words. Avoid at this moment to fall into the trap of denial. It is natural not to want to believe, but denying what is clear only generates more suffering, both for those who are departing and for those who stay. Also, avoid bringing conflicts to the environment. Family discussions, hasty decisions about aggressive hospitalization or treatment only create more anguish. Discernment is needed to understand that the moment is now, no fight, no rush. It is full presence. It is to accept that biology is just fulfilling its course, a course that all of us one day lets go. And if we have a chance to do this with serenity, why not enjoy? Many family members, out of fear, run to the hospital right now, hoping that some miracle will happen, or that a procedure reverses what is actually irreversible. There is no problem seeking medical support, of course, but it is important to understand that in many cases, hospitalization does not change fate. It only transfers the scene from the end to a cold place with machine beeps, smell of medicines, and strange faces. When possible, allow the elderly to live their last moments at home, in their room, in their favorite armchair, surrounded by family faces, is one of the greatest love acts you can offer, because this is more than careful. It is honor. It is respect for the history of a lifetime. At these times, words also need to be chosen with love. Avoid phrases like, "You will improve soon," or "It's nothing, it's just tired." This may confuse or even generate frustration if the elderly are still aware. Prefer expressions like, "We're here with you," "You're safe," "We're on your side all the time." These lines are like an emotional blanket. They warm the soul and convey security, even when the body is almost saying goodbye. And if there is something to be said, something that has been stuck for years, this is the moment. Say you love. Ask forgiveness if applicable. Listen to what he still has to say if he has the strength to speak. Often the greatest relief comes from a simple phrase. It's okay. It can rest. It is at this point that care goes beyond the physical. He enters the emotional, spiritual, and even symbolic field. The silent presence, the welcoming environment, respect for body time, all of this is really careful. And here, more than ever, we need to listen with our hearts. The body is turning off, yes, but he's talking all the time. and it's up to us to learn to hear this silent language. Now, I want to know about you. If this content is making sense, write here in the comments something that has touched you. It can be an experience that has lived, a question that still carries, or even a simple, "I'm learning." You can also comment on phrases such as, "Silence is also careful," or, "I want to learn to listen to the body with more sensitivity." This space here is ours. It is a community of people who care, who worry, who love, and sometimes a comment can touch the hearts of someone who is going through exactly what you have ever lived. If you have come here, from the heart, thank you very much. This shows that you really care, you want to learn, that you are seeking to evolve to take better care of those you love. And that's why I want to invite you to subscribe now on the channel, so you don't lose any content like this with direct, valuable information that can turn your way of seeing the health of the elderly. If this video touched your heart in any way, leave your like. This helps the channel too much to grow and makes this content reach others who also need to learn about these silent signs that the body gives at the end of life. And he comments down here the phrase, "I want to take care of more awareness." So I will know that you stayed until the end and are committed to continuing learning with me. Now don't stop here. The next video is already appearing on your screen, and in it I will show you the habits and attitudes that relieve the discomfort in the last days of the elderly. Click and continue with me on this journey of knowledge and empathy. I hope you there.